Now, thank you, Professor Yang, and also the Professor Shalak, for your very inspiring talk. I think this section is actually, basically I have no experience as medical doctors. I'm an engineer, so I have more experience as patients. So in this sessions, I set up a very simple, but also very important title, Making Invisible Visible, because you can see that in the talks previously, we are trying to use different kind of technology to find the hidden information or data. And especially in medicine, there are many hidden informations. Some information and data are inside the population, some are inside people, some are inside, a person, a cell, and even at the point of time of interest. So it's very interesting that we can see what we are doing right now in different kind of angle. And you can see the Professor Yang, your talk actually helped us to see the health across society, across population, and also we can see the clinical systems and Taiwan's precision health ecosystems. But also, the Professor Shalak previously, thanks for your talk, we actually see the data inside the cell. So we are talking about different kind of things, how we can apply our findings inside the cell and apply to huge amount of people. And so as an engineer, and I used to think things more to structure in dimension and also architecture. So you can see I would try to simplify our discussion in two directions. One is across people. The other direction is across time, because we are talking about the connected health, longitudinal data, but we also want to understand how this kind of new technology and new ASIC sensing technology can apply to public health. So that's the purpose of the chat. Although it's a fire chat, I thought that we should have a fire, here. And so, so you just switched my voice. I feel very strange. And so for across people, what we try to do is that how do we learn from the many people across different kind of risk, disease, background, and clinical experience? Across time, how do we understand the health, not only a snapshot? Because we go to the health check, it's only a snapshot. And we want to be, it looks like a continuous life journey, and that it can easier for us to keep tracking of our health and to do more precision and also prevention health for the future. And so in simple words, basically we try to develop discussions about across times, which that this is equals to the visible wisdom, and that's the purpose of it. And so and also that perhaps the role of AI here is not about to connect the data. It's about to help us to complete the whole picture of healthcare. So although we are talking about connecting or bridging the data from the lab to the society and populations, but it's also more important, we try to get your insight and feedback about how to use AI to complete the whole big picture for the future. And so actually the data we have give us a rough outline only, and also the time will give us more clues around the data. And so my first questions for you two all is that, from what you have just shared, what is the most important invisible part of health that AI is beginning to make visible? So could we start with Professor Yang?
Okay. Okay. Actually, because I'm a clinician, I'm working on lung cancer. So I use lung cancer as example. So we know that lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer mortality in men and in women. But most of our women lung cancer patients, actually, they don't smoke. more than 90% of them, they are lifelong never smokers. Even in men, only half of them, they are smokers. So how to identify the subject who did not smoke, but they have risk for lung cancer? This is one of the questions, very important questions. So we can identify a high-risk subject who can benefit from the low-dose CT screening, because we cannot screen everyone, because the low-dose CT screening, they still have radiation exposure. So how can we do that? There are several approaches to make the invisible visible. For example, we can, based on the genomic data, to identify the risk subject. So they may need a more frequent screening because they have high risk or they have family history. And another very example is the AI algorithm. Actually, we collaborate with the MIT, Regina, the algorithm called SIBR. That algorithm can predict the risk of the lung cancer from the initial CT scan. Even initial CT scan is negative. From the AI radiomic algorithm, they are able to predict the risk of lung cancer in 1 year, in 2 years, in 6 years. Actually, they do not see the tumor, but they can predict after 6 years the risk of lung cancer, how high of each individual. This is AI. AI can do that. So we are trying to validate this algorithm can be applied in our population, and we are trying to use that for every participant who participates in the lung cancer screening from the initial CT scan, even they are negative. This algorithm tells the risk, then we can stratify the interval of screening, make the invisible visible. So this is a typical example. And I mentioned earlier that the ECG is a typical example. You are able to do that. From a routine ECG, you know the risk of each individual. Even no need draw the blood, you know the hemoglobin level. So this is our some thoughts how to make it use AI to make things more simpler. Yeah.
It's a great question. I'll just raise 2 points. One is I would agree that it's helping us to understand relationships among features that we couldn't, think our way through before. So looking at images to understand underlying patterns in the data that can tell us things about prediction, or to connect measurements that might not be easy to connect. AI helps us to identify those elements. But the other thing that I think is really important that it does is it helps us to understand the biases and the things that we don't understand. I similarly like the idea of thinking about things through the lens of architecture. And in many studies, we scaffold what we think is the appropriate architecture, and we try and interpret our study through that. And when we find things that a lack of smoking associates with elevated risk of cancer in a particular population, it forces us to ask questions about what do we not understand about the drivers of human health, and that leads to new lenses of biological inquiries. So sometimes when it shows us where the models break down, it actually can push us forward to a place where I think we can improve outcomes for many people.
Well, thanks for the comments, but I think another thing is extremely the important is that when we bring the innovations from the lab to the real world, and actually there are many more things that we don't understand, and also that we try to search more data and also algorithm and to back up what we try to solve, the problem we try to solve. And talking about SIBO, I think currently we are it's a quantum funded project, and so currently we are eager to do the clinical trial under Dr. Yang's supervision, and also we try to make it happen to see a model that development in MGH in the States, and whether it's still workable to solve the problems and also the unique disease here in lung cancer here in Taiwan. So I think in next quarter we will see some results. Currently the result is very good. Yes. Yeah, they're very, very good. Yeah. And so another thing that we try to do is that we try to have more discussions around the, the people first. And so Professor Yang just, talk about many things about, about the medical practice around the populations. So Taiwan is at a very unique position because we have already built a very valuable foundation in population health, clinical data, and precision medicine. So from your perspectives, how can AI help us to move from population statistics to population intelligence? I think it's very important because we already have the data here. And the second thing is that how can we make sure that we generate the value, the most important value around healthcare out of the data we collected for the past 25 years.
Yeah, actually, Taiwan National Health Insurance System is very precious data, big data. Through that, we have the outcome and also the demographic information and also the laboratory tests for each individual in the island-wide. So we are able to use that to generate a risk prediction model. If anyone who join the TPMI, then we are able to use the TPMI, the SNPs, detect it in the TPMI and incorporate the National Health Insurance data to generate the precision prevention, precision health for each individual. They need to change their lifestyle because the TPMI give you the risk that maybe you have a high risk of getting diabetes, so you need to exercise more to control your diet and let the diabetics occur later, so they can help you avoid the diabetic complication. So if we can implement this kind of the practice into every individual through the iPhone or through anything, to incorporate the personal big data, personal TPMI data, and also incorporate the National Health Insurance data, and they are able to generate a very precise prevention measure to recommendation for every individual. So we can make everyone healthy, not make everyone all remain in sub-healthy, not to develop into the severe disease. So we can reduce the cost of all population healthcare.
Thank you, Professor Yang. I think I would also like to connect these questions to Alex, Professor Sherlock. I mean, when your lab discover a cellular mechanism in specific setting, actually the signal is beautiful. I mean, everything you find is beautiful and very precise. But when for healthcare, you have to apply this for huge amount of people in the world with different kind of background and also different kind of disease and different kind of environments. So my question is that how can you move from beautiful local signal to a more trustworthy, global model?
It's a great question, and it's very complex. I think that first off, one of the things that I really liked was the idea of partnerships across medical ecosystems. And the reason for that is that I think that in lots of places, the way that we find interesting signal is by looking at correlations. And so sometimes having greater diversity gives us actually a way of extracting associations so that we can then go do tests. And so when I think about how we go from sort of molecular insights going back to impact on patients, I actually think about it in the opposite direction, which is I always think about the cohorts of people that we're trying to help. I think about the disease features that we're trying to study, and then I think about where we have variability there so that I can then apply some of the best algorithms and approaches that we have, experimental and computational, to figure out what might be underlying those differences. From there, you can start to think about how to do, beautiful science, your words, not mine, but I'll tell my students, to get to the underlying root causes and to think about what you would monitor and how you would intervene. But I think that if the goal is to figure out something of relevance to human health, you always have to start from those populations. And so it's good sample selection, it's good cohort selection, it's good monitoring, it's understanding outcomes, and then it's using these detailed measures to get to the underlying features that are linking to disease. I think that one of the things that's not lost to me that is really important is that even when we do these really deep molecular measurements, we're always getting a snapshot. And I look at, a tumor, I'm looking at a small piece, a small subset of cells at a small point in time. And so I do think that we really need to get back to understanding how these things connect into patient trajectories. And one of the things I'm actually most excited about around health sciences and semiconductors is that the biggest missing piece for me in many places is lived experience, lifestyle. We can get deep snapshots, we can understand what leads to risk, but we can't understand what is driving you from risk to disease outcome without understanding the experiences that people have. And so we need solutions where we can do minimally invasive monitoring, where we can record from people over time in ways that can inform what we're seeing when they do their annual checkups or visits, so that we can figure out when can we intervene early and what do we need to change before it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. The reason why I asked this question is that in addition to the technology sides, product development, I think one of the key strengths of Taiwan industry is about scale. How to bring the small innovations and at large scale, and putting it to the market at very high quality standards. And so that's something that it's the community here can do a wonderful job. And so back to the engineering side. When we do research on the technology, we use the technology, develop the platform, and design the product, and we do new product introductions. We put in the customized mass production, the plants. And then we also need to consider, the quality assurance, quality control over time. And actually, I think in health domain, especially in AI, driven health domains, some discipline and also some process still that need to be established before we go to the market together. And also the regulations has to be ready by then. And so that's a reason why that, I come up with this idea, because oftentimes when we work with, great researchers from MIT, we see innovations and we see the value of it. But putting it from as an innovations to the huge market, across all countries, that's another big challenges. And I think in that matters, maybe, Taiwan can help from different kind of aspects. Yeah, but it's just like Professor Yang just said, it's different because it's more evidence-based. And so how to do that in the future, I think that's something that we won't be able to discuss within 40 minutes, but that's something that I think there's some, ideas that we can discuss in the future time, maybe during dinner time. And so another thing is that another direction is about, across the time. And so this will be the second dimension that I would like to understand. Just like you just said, biology is not a photography. Biology is actually a movie. So which means that, the research, just like Professor Bahai just mentioned this morning, is connected continuous monitoring, and also the doing actuating. Once you understand what's going on, you can do, the insulin, injection, and it's all automatic control, which is good. But I think it's how important is it to observe, the biology over time, not only at one moment, because in the lab, at cell, scale, is actually when we do the, experiment, that's one time. You come up with the algorithm and the mechanism and apply it to the human body, and that will be a journey of life of human being, and that's different. And so I would like to seek for your comments and on that.
I think time is the essential piece of all of this, right? When we're born, usually development sets things up in a very nice way, and then the environment has an impact on it, the way we live has an impact on it, and it leads to disease processes. From snapshots, if we only look at one time point, we can try and get an idea of how time might be progressing, maybe in a cross-sectional cohort, understanding something about the differences between individuals. Not sure what happened there. But I think in many places, there's real power in doing longitudinal measurements within an individual, because then we can see whether or not the hypotheses that we have about how things are going to change actually are transpiring, and whether some of the interventions that we have are leading to the changes that we'd like to see. Now, the problem with a lot of the work that I do is that we measure tens of thousands of variables, and we get trillions of data points, but it's inherently destructive. And so we rip things apart and we can't measure it dynamically. And so to me, the important thing is to develop technologies that can couple these very deep information-rich readouts to dynamic processes, to measure biomarkers in the periphery, like Ahmad brought up and I did as well, to think about things that we might get through physical vitals, right? And to understand how that relates back so that AI can tell us whether or not things are moving in the right direction and when we need to make the next deep measurement. But I think that where we're going to really need these approaches is to go from sort of the microscopic to the macroscopic. In all of science, it always seems like we're very good at describing things at the atomic level and really getting down to the details, or at understanding big population level trends. It's the mesoscale where it's very hard to interdigitate, and I think that technologies and approaches are going to be essential to link what's happening at the molecular level to what's happening, at the population level. And that means not just the idea of looking at time point 1 and time point 2, but understanding relationships between one tissue and another. So if we're thinking about lung cancer, how can we understand what's happening in the lung through breath or through blood or through measuring a vital? And how does that tell us about what's happening in that underlying tissue? And that's a very hard problem where I think we're going to need to collect well-structured data, but also leverage AI and new technologies to make those connections so that we can help patients.
Yeah, I also like to see for the Professor Yang's comments, because if we want to bring this time dimension to the healthcare system, which is very important, and so, but we have to also understand that today healthcare is often episodic. So you go to the a patient can be you test a test is performed, and then you do diagnosis, you get the treatment, then you go back. And so it's not continuous, but our life is continuous. Yeah. And so I think what needs to be solved before this kind of longitudinal intelligence can become part of everyday healthcare will be very important for the future. Of course, right now in Taiwan, because of computers, semiconductor industry, oftentimes we focus very much on computing, data center. But talking about continuous monitoring, connectivity, and also actuating, we are moving to enabling AI intelligence to the nanoscale, a very small. So, but at that scale, it requires different kind of technology, not only computer science. You need different kind of life science, chemistry and others. So my problem is that how we can start to solve this problem together in order to move the current healthcare systems to connected and also continuous.
Yeah, actually, continuous monitoring of a specific health condition or disease is very important. All the biomarker, actually, it is not constant. It fluctuates every day. So continuous monitoring of any specific biomarker, it will be very important and also very useful to tell you the risk of specific disease. But for monitoring of this, for lung cancer as example, you have the endogenous genetic risk, but also you have exogenous risk, maybe caused by the carcinogen in the environment. So keep on this environmental carcinogen would hit your cell, hit your DNA. how can we continuously monitoring the burden of this kind of environmental carcinogen that hit, that damage your DNA? It would be very, very important how to do that. In my dream, I hope that somewhat in the future, every day, everyone get up, then facing a robot at home, and robot tell you the risk. Any kind of disease risk. The robot just see your face and tell you the risk. Just tell you the fortune. This is my dream, continuous monitoring. Don't think that it is not impossible. It is possible. We use the wearable device, but still we can use the non-wearable device to monitoring your vital signs, monitoring everything. I hope in the near future, you just look at the AI robot at home, and they tell you the fortune of specific disease. They tell you how to prevent that.
I think that's a great point. I think that, one of the important things is to think about what kinds of changes, we as a society are willing to make, right? So I think that the real opportunity is in making things that are minimally invasive, that, are easy to interface with, where it doesn't feel like we're going to get a blood draw every single day or every single hour, because nobody's going to want to do that. But I think that, if I think about the wearables that we use now, there's so much more information we could extract, so much more where we could pack in more sensors, so much more where we could learn relationships between physical signals and biochemical ones, where we could get important insights into overall health. And it might be that what we need to do is understand sort of integrated inflammation, but that's something we could pull out of a wearable, coupled with, a not all the time, but occasional molecular test. So I think things like that I can see as a foreseeable future, but I think that much of it comes to thinking about the user experience and thinking about how to leverage the incredible, knowledge here in semiconductors to miniaturize and make more robust many of these sensors, so that you can get the information that you need in a way that people are comfortable with and doesn't impact their lifestyles.
I sincerely wish that all your dreams come true, so we can be more healthy. But
one example is the continuous sugar monitoring.
yeah.
Many, I think many audience, maybe they know that how to monitor their blood sugar just through this small device, continuous sugar monitoring by Apple. Okay. So can we make it? We don't need to just put the device on your skin. Can we just, as the smartphone, tell you that just see your face or see your eye or see your blood flow in the finger, tell you the sugar level? If that's possible, then we are able to continuously monitor a very simple disease.
I think that's a very good point, but we need another fireside chat about making visible invisible. Because, the user experience actually is the most important thing. If you want to move, the medical devices from the hospital and to the home or to the people. And that is one thing. Another effort is that people need sensing, not sensors. So basically how to embed the smart sensing in the environment, so that you can live a very normal life as routine as possible, and then you don't need to really care about what are the things to them to wear. And so that's also something that many scientists, even inside our lab, we are doing some research using different kind of millimeter wave and other wireless signal, try to understand and collect the vital signs from that. But it also leads to another questions. It also means that it's a perfect world if we combine the people and the time together, but we don't have the complete data set. We are using that partial data set and try to make our work better. whatever your data you collecting now, sometimes it's not enough, for the future. And so my question is that if the data is partial and imperfect, how does it, what does it take to build, trustworthy, healthy intelligence from incomplete but meaningful data? I'm not saying that TPMI is not it's not meaningful. It's meaningful, but it's only that the 500K people. But here we have 25 million people, and so so from data size it's incomplete, but the data is meaningful, and so we don't have that we only have the partial data, even for the sale and other things, and so how can we do with that? And moving toward to a perfect world that we are imagining?
Well, we'll never have perfect data, because if we wanted to understand everything about somebody, we'd have to take them apart to the atomic level and measure every single atom and where it was. And then you'd have to put them back together and do it over and over again, which is not happening. I think that what we need to do is we need to think about well-structured cohorts and make predictions, and think about the metrics that we want to use on the back end to evaluate whether or not our predictions are correct, right? In some places, what I've been surprised by is how robust some of the biological systems are, how much they constantly move back to similar spots and places, and that creates this incredible opportunity to intervene, because it's not like everything is distinct. Lots of tissues work in similar ways. Lots of immune responses work in similar ways. And so if we can understand how to predict what's going to happen, make hypotheses, validate them, look at them in different cohorts, in partnership with different countries, thinking about some of the federated approaches that had come up earlier, I think we can get to a place where we can believe, that the interventions that we're selecting are going to be useful. But I think that one of the things that I think most about is how to understand where you have data and where you don't, getting back to your point about it being partial. We understand time, but we don't understand all the relationships among the different disease processes and compartments. And so I do think that sort of these, active reinforcement learning or lab in the loop style frameworks where you're constantly testing, but also trying to understand what the limitations of your own knowledge are really important, so that we understand, generalizability. But to me, it's always going to come back to functional validation if you want to build trust in any kind of intervention or indication.
Yeah, thank you. And I think after I come up with, the last questions, I will open the floor. So I think many people will have questions. And I think Paul just, raised his hand for the first one. But I think, since this is an MIT ILP and Apple Foundation Symposium, so I would like to, have the discussions back to the builder here, because, the audience here is actually from Taiwan high-tech industry and also from the medical industry as well. So if the healthcare, following what we just discussed, are moving more continuous data, rich and also intelligence-driven, what do you see the most important opportunities for the industry here? Not only for the market here, but for global market. And what's the new opportunity? Yeah. Would you like to, Alex? Yeah.
I mean, I could spend a week talking about opportunities in the space. I don't think there's any shortage. I think all of us want to live healthier, better lives, and there's opportunities to be had in making that a reality. As was highlighted, you do incredible scale when it comes to semiconductors, and you do incredible robustness. And the goal would be to develop technologies that can be measured, applied not just to one specific population, but that could be applied to people all around the world. And so I think, in building some of these approaches and then figuring out how to make them deployable, you have incredible opportunities, to discover things that would impact health for everybody. I also think that there's incredible opportunities to discover what are disease features that you want to target. And that means, supporting pharmaceutical companies and developing new products and thinking about how to deploy those. I often think about the utility of different models for humans, because we can't always add a drug to a human. We want to do all of our preclinical testing. And so how do we use AI and some of the approaches to improve the fidelity of those models so that we're more likely to get results that are impactful quickly? And so I think there's opportunities in the modeling space, in the drug discovery space, in the device space. And then I think there's also incredible opportunities for the healthcare system. I mean, I was having a brief chat during one of the side sessions around how this could even improve, outcomes for payers and insurance systems, because if you can figure out who's at risk and get them to a clinician earlier or make an earlier intervention in a lifestyle factor, you can alleviate a ton of suffering for that individual and also reduce costs, physical, emotional, and financial to the healthcare system. And so I think you could imagine this touches every single sector. So we could go deep in any of those, but I think that there's untold riches.
Another thing I would like to add, because I'm representing Taiwan for APEC Business Advisory Council. So we just finished, one project to allow data stay locally and to do, intelligence sharing through federated learning. We just completed the workshop for 21 economies around the Pacific Ocean. And so the reason why they trust, Taiwan can do it is that, as you just mentioned, we have the full infrastructure, the data, the models that can help, the whole, the regions to grow together. And that's another thing about, the positions that we try to have is more because the future health relies on collaboration, different level of collaboration, yes.
Totally. I would just add that I fully agree, and I think that some of the incredible infrastructure that's being set up here, both in terms of studies, longitudinal monitoring, and these substrates for federated learning for computation, are going to help us to apply them to other cohorts in other places, so that we can understand what is driving increased risk for lung cancer, or greater longevity in certain places. And so I think we have a lot to learn by leveraging global diversity that can benefit all of us.
Yeah. So, Professor Yang, closing remark?
Well,
we have another question.
Yeah. Actually, we all know that AI is very powerful, which can make many things impossible become possible, and also especially in healthcare. That there are many hurdles. There are many opportunities, great opportunities, but still there are many hurdles, especially the how to make the data more friendly, can be interchangeable, interoperable, and also trust the data after the identification we are able to use to transfer for the to develop the hypothesis or to validate the AI algorithm. And most important part would be the reimbursement. We, as I mentioned, many AI algorithms already developed. It turned out they are very useful, but our national health insurance did not reimburse that. So the hospital, they don't like to use or implement this AI algorithm in their daily practice. It's because they make no profit. So we need to change the idea, change the, especially our health insurance system. Let them know that if we diagnose disease earlier, prevent disease to occur, actually we save money. So you need to reimburse somewhat in part or for some kind of the algorithm that can make the everyone more healthy. I think that is a big hurdle, but we can solve that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think business model is the last mile for all the great technologies take flight. And so I'd like to open the, if you don't mind, to the one questions that Paul has. Yeah.
I ask a question really on behalf of many younger students here, because they have many years ahead of them, right? Probably not us. Okay. So under the circumstances, in Taiwan, we have a big problem. That is the service industry, which is health care related, are not allowed to become a corporation. In other words, the idea embedded in our existing law is that medical services, healthcare services, including care services of the older people. I know Professor Young for many, many years. I think we're all aware of the problem. Okay? Cannot be corporatized. Has to be structured as a nonprofit organization, which of course is hypocrite. If a hospital cannot make money, how can they survive? But the law is there, the interpretation of law is there. But I think this is a very important issue. And I fought this issue for at least a quarter of a century. But I'd like to see your opinion. I think in the United States, this is not a problem, right?
Okay.
Church can decide that they form a hospital. So there's a free choice, not for the sake of making money. But private sector can also form a hospital. But we in Taiwan, we are barred by the law. I don't know who made the law, okay? Not me, okay? That service industry related, healthcare industry cannot be corporatized. In other words, you cannot make money. Okay? That's
Yeah.
the whole idea.
Yes, for many years we know this problem. That's why I changed the term very early from the precision medicine to precision health. You know, as a doctor, when a patient gets sick, you need to, from the medical ethic point of view, you should try everything to cure the patient. But you cannot use this opportunity that you are sick. So I would take this opportunity to make money from you. So I don't like the term of precision medicine industry or precision medicine business. But if you change to precision health, you make everyone healthy. Everyone is willing to pay for that. So you can make a huge return through the health promotion. That's why for many years I try to convince our regulatory agency, everyone, for the 医疗产业是不好的 term. It's not good term. But 健康产业 is sorry, I speak in Chinese. It's more precise. 健康产业 is more convincing that you make everyone, and every hospital can do that. Because I make everyone healthy. So they can make a company doing somewhat for health promotion to prevent the disease to occur. This is what I try to convince the regulatory and the message that we try to go this direction.
Okay.
Professor, what do you think about this? Is it bad law from your perspective?
I agree.
You agree in Chinese? Okay.
I regret not putting in my AirPod to get a translation, but I think that fundamentally that there's a lot of value in improving health and minimizing the number of individuals that become sick and catching them earlier. And if we can shift to a society where we can be proactive instead of reactive, it creates incredible opportunities and savings, and there are ways to think about commodifying that. But it comes down to thinking about how to do it in a way that will work within our different societies and different systems. And what excites me is that, you know, in listening to the talks this morning and the conversations here, we are having a lot of the same conversations and thinking about the same things, you know, in Boston that you all are thinking about here. And I've often found that the best solutions come from, chatting about how we're approaching problems, how you're approaching problems, and seeing opportunities to go further together. And I hope that what comes out of this conference is that we learn from one another and that we find ways that we can actually improve health in both places through working together.
I cannot agree more. And we are running out of time. And they told me that I have to pay for the overtime if we keep talking. So thanks for the great panelists and their insight. I wish that we can have more time to set up different fireplaces for different kind of chat. Okay, thank you.